So when I was on the ground in Santo Domingo, they knew I was American. And like Clay said, as soon as I opened my mouth, but they didn't treat me badly. They didn't treat me harshly. They didn't say, "Oh, me no black." You know, it wasn't anything like that. It was just a natural exchange with two people that look the same, but have different identities. And so that's what I wanted to get across.
100%, Steve. Listen, man. If the DR was so bad, I would not be there, or if it was unwelcoming, or if I felt a sense that it wasn't the place for me, even though I have a daughter there, so obviously I have a tie that keeps me there. And we're together. I mean, that's my baby.
Oh, if you're on IG, you see her all the time. I think I've seen her grow up. So
yeah. But the Dominican people historically are extremely genial, friendly.
What's going on, y'all? It's your man, Stephen Bardo, point guard, coming back to you with a special edition of Next Chapter Forward. I talk to you guys and tell you that I want to bring you success stories of other Black men who have made the transition and are living their lives, living their best lives. One of these gentlemen is on with me today. I'm proud to call him a friend of mine, Clay Dade. Clay, how you doing, brother?
Doing great. How you doing, Steve? Great to see you.
I'm doing better. I'm doing better now that we chopping it up. You know what I'm saying? Clay is a great brother, man. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of highlight as I wrote some notes here is this right here. So Clay's he does a lot of different things: premium cigar business, former NBA scout, resident in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. Clay, can you give our viewers a sense of what your background is and kind of fill them in on that?
Well, I'm originally born and raised in Washington, D.C. You know, like you, Steve, rich basketball tradition and culture. Came up under the Lenny Biases, the Johnny Dawkinses, the Adrian Dantleys, the list goes on. And so I, pursued and tried to follow in that same kind of culture and that code that we have in Washington for great basketball. And, I saw it as a way for me to, have a chance to go to college. And, my parents did a great job preparing me, sending me to a great school, high school. I played and went to the same schools that, the famed DeMatha and St. John's and Gonzaga and Carroll High School that produced Big John Thompson, former Georgetown coach, and Lawrence Moten and guys like that. So this is that kind of incubator that I came out of, that kind of culture in Washington. Washington was a very international and diverse city, even in my youth, in the 70s and 80s. So that prepared me for life, really. And it still is something that I draw from today, living abroad. I went on to play college ball. I got a scholarship to play in the ACC. I played at Wake Forest. So, growing up, even before the Big East emerged, of course, the Big East began to dominate the Northeast, and our area is considered the Northeast in the DC area, believe it or not. But we had Georgetown here. So I got the best of both worlds, Steve. I had the Big East and Georgetown, and I had, the ACC with the University of Maryland being right here, Virginia, Wake Forest, and on down through the Carolinas and Tobacco Road with Duke, North Carolina, NC State. So I came up around, watching all of that on TV before ESPN, anybody watching. So this is our era, Steve. You know that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But you still, that was still your orientation. And, I was fortunate to play college basketball at two schools, Wake Forest, and then I transferred to Winthrop University. At Wake Forest, I played behind Muggsy Bogues,
Oh, wow.
So everyone knows Muggs' story.
Yep.
We're still great friends, and I learned a lot from that. And so after college, I lived and worked in the Charlotte area, and went back to grad school, or went back to school to pursue my master's in sports, working in the sports business. And I mention that because it helped me to transition to, opportunities to work in a dream job for me and for many, and that's working in the sports either field or sports industry with, say, a Nike or a sports agency, a marketing firm in sports, or working for an association like US Olympic Committee or USA Basketball, those corporate types of setups. I was fortunate. My first experience working in sports was with an NBA team. So I worked with the Orlando Magic during the years of Shaquille. We had Big Shaq. We had Dennis Scott. Dennis and I grew up together in DC
Oh,
area.
yeah. Yeah.
So Dennis was
Dennis was on the Virginia side, correct?
Dennis grew up where Grant Hill grew up. They were
Yep.
they were kind of contemporaries in Reston, Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
which is a DC suburb, a Washington suburb.
Yep.
Dennis is originally from Hagerstown, Maryland, which is in between Baltimore and DC.
That's Prince George's County, isn't it?
No, Hagerstown is way up near Frederick, Maryland, and
Ah.
at the corner of Howard County. Some watching this may be familiar with Columbia, Maryland, which is another
Yep.
kind of outer suburb of Washington and Baltimore. So, but Dennis's family, his mother, moved to Reston, Virginia, which is part of Fairfax County near Dulles Airport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, giving you
Okay.
that, giving some context. So after I worked for the Orlando Magic, I was in the front office in an internship, but it was work. It was full-time work, full-time employment, but it just happened to be an internship for fulfillment of my graduate degree at Ohio University, which was then the number one postgraduate or graduate program and the first. They were the pioneer for producing people aspire work in sports. Ohio University, not Ohio State, but Ohio University had the first ever program. And so, I was one of many, many, many graduates that have gone on to do great things in the business of sports and administering sports, for example, in college athletics, directors of athletics, and so forth.
Hold on.
Follow.
Let me jump in on you for a second, because I know your background is fascinating. But you know what my guys want to hear, right?
Sure.
They want to hear this right here. They want to hear about you living in the DR.
Let's get
Okay.
to it. Let's talk about it.
So I messed up, ladies and gentlemen. I said 8 to 9 years. Clay, what month does this represent for you being in the Dominican Republic?
So this month, January 2026, starts my 11th year living abroad, living in the Dominican Republic. Yep.
I mean, so think about this, ladies and gentlemen. You heard all his background. He's on the sports side with me, right? We are very similar in terms of playing college basketball, going into sports related fields. But this is where I really wanted to bring Clay on, because I think his insight about a Black man living across or overseas is going to be very valuable. So let me ask you this right here. What prompted you to make the move?
Wow. I get that question a lot, maybe several times a day, no matter if I'm in the US or in DR. Even Dominicans ask me that question. So,
wow.
I was to be really transparent, because I think it matters. First of all, I did see a lot of the current political climate in the U.S. coming. In 2015, I saw a shift happening, but really the primary place I was at personally and maybe psychically was, and I've always been a free person, a free thinker. I've always been my own guy. Steve, you know that.
Yep.
And I've also been a serial entrepreneur. So I'm used to being independent. I'm used to being an independent thinker. I'm used to getting it out the mud and doing what is required to sustain or maintain or attain freedom and freedom of thought and pursuit and business interests and so forth. And so I was coming out of a divorce. I'd been separated. The divorce was finalizing. At the time, I had been living out in the Pacific Northwest. And, my ex-wife or then wife was still out there. She was on faculty at a university out there. And we just, for whatever reason, after 8 years, went our separate ways. And, I was ready for what was next. And I needed mentally and psychologically, and maybe even emotionally and spiritually, to rediscover myself, get back to,
Mm.
or maybe have a fresh start on what direction I wanted to go. At the time, for my business, my sports firm that I ran, I was pursuing a early season college basketball tournament that I had proposed to the Dominican government. And they had me come down to the DR. Now, mind you, I had been coming to the Dominican Republic with the fellas and, as vacation for years, many, many years on my own. But in this case, it was business related. And I had been coming to Santo Domingo and Punta Cana to,
Mm.
to, with the idea to develop this early season college basketball tournament, what they call, Steve, it's called an MTE.
Yep.
And so standing for, an exception event that takes place at the start of the college basketball season, just like in Hawaii, just like in the Bahamas at the famous Atlantis Resort, and just like in Cancun, Mexico for many years, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and so
Mm-hmm.
what I couldn't understand was why there had never been one in the Dominican Republic. That anyone who knows about the DR knows that the Dominican Republic, for 20 plus years running, has been the number one destination in the Caribbean for tourists and tourism. And their economy for 20 plus years over that same span has been growing at 5% GDP per annum. So,
Wow.
and has a very stable government, and it's a beautiful place. Everyone knows that.
Mm-hmm.
Most people have, a lot of people have been to Punta Cana. They see that as the Dominican Republic when, there's a lot more to the DR. And I knew that. And so I felt that it was a great place and venue to start a new college basketball event for fans.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what brought me there, while working on that project with the Ministry of Tourism, the government, and the various hotels that I had begun discussions with to do the deal and maybe to host the event. You meet somebody. I'd been out. I met someone. Beautiful person, female Dominicana, and we linked up. And before you know it, I was coming there regularly, and then I moved. I moved permanently as the relationship grew, and you know, I ended up moving and we ended up creating a family. So I have a daughter. She's beautiful. She's American and Dominican. She's in the fourth grade, so she's 9. And fast forward to where we are now, and I've been there for years. So
Okay. And so, Clay, this is interesting to me. In the first few months, how were you received by the locals? Like, did
wow.
you feel like a foreigner?
Well, it's funny, Steve. They saw me as they when they physically looked at, how I physically appear to them is as one of them.
That's
You
right.
know, they approach me. They, even to this day, after 10 plus years, they they believe me. I think I just fell right into the culture, because physically I resemble what, I don't know if there's a look, but you know,
Hmm.
because Dominicans come in all shapes, sizes, and looks and complexions, and for what it's worth, they saw me or see me as Dominican. So I didn't feel any real obvious anti, the gringo treatment. I didn't get the gringo treatment until you open your mouth, and then they know you're not one of them. You're not
Yeah.
native, or you're not you're not a native Dominican. They know that. As soon as you open your mouth, and I don't care how proficient you are in not just Spanish, they actually don't understand, and really regular Spanish, conventional Spanish, traditional Spanish, as we learn it in the United States, does not even resonate with them. They have,
Interesting.
they have Dominican Spanish. And it took me 4 years to really be able to speak it, not necessarily fluently, but I call it usably,
Mm.
utilitarian Dominican Spanish. Now I'm obviously fluent. I'm fluent in Dominican Spanish. I don't speak quite as rapidly as they do.
Nobody does.
Yeah,
Man, they speak fast.
Steve, you were just there, so you
Yes,
know.
yes.
They speak super, super fast, and but it was immersion, man. It was immersion, full 100% immersion from day one. I was accepted. I probably, because I had a relationship with a Dominican female
Mhm.
who grew up in the culture. I was looked at as the American outsider. So in a sense, they kind of gravitate to that. You're
Mm.
you're a curiosity to them. For
Okay.
for many Dominicans, many, even the more worldly and sophisticated, those that have been around, probably traveled outside of their country, but certainly for the lower socioeconomic to the working class, middle class, and above, Americans not only are a curiosity, but you're intriguing to them. They want to, they learn American life and daily Americanism from you. And so
Mm.
I was aware of that, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't fulfilling stereotypes, like being the arrogant, pushy American, or the the other dynamic is the hood Black American, Afro American. They call it Afro American if you're, or
Okay.
or the N word, being too inward-ish, nigerish. They're
Yeah.
looking for that because that's what they see in YouTube and videos and music videos. They think every Black American is that stereotype, is what they see. And I'm far from that. Just like you, Steve. We're highly educated. We've been in rooms. I've worked in corporate. I've worked in grassroots. I've had a whole span through my lifetime in my professional career to give a different, a different view and expect, what they see,
Mm.
that kind of causes some cognitive dissonance in them. So they're trying to understand how to approach me. Once they get off the bullshit, so to speak, and they really just deal with you as an individual and as a person, and not as the buffoonish, or the idea or the image of Black America or Americans in general that they're used to seeing, then it becomes a really different conversation and you're perceived and received differently. So it's fun down there, man. It's great to live there. There's DR has so much to offer beyond what we all know and the fellas seem to pursue that's popular, the chicas and all of that.
Of course.
All of that is there. If you want it, it's there. It's cool. I've been through all that. I I was on that program before even moving there. But when you live there, just like when you live in some place in the US, like Miami, everybody wants to move to Miami or Atlanta who's from Chicago or Texas or DC or Detroit or wherever. Once you get to a place, you're actually living there in daily life every day. Your your reticular activation starts to open up and you start to see different things and how people are moving and appreciation for just the whole 360 of life in a place.
Okay. Okay. And then Clay has done a fantastic job of networking with other brothers in the Dominican Republic. Share what your community of other expats looks like, Clay.
Man, we have a whole community in DR, not just where I am. I'm in 4 million people in the capital of the city of Santo Domingo. Anybody familiar with that? Santo Domingo was the original city in the Western Hemisphere for European colonialism, and let's just be honest, white supremacy. It was ground zero for the establishment of white supremacy in the Western Hemisphere. So that was the touch point. That was where everything touched off. Everything. Columbus and his brother landed there. Everyone knows they landed there by accident. They didn't know where they were going, and you all around Santo Domingo, you see reminders of colonial invasion, I like to call it, and their arrival into what was known back then as IT.
IT. That's right.
AYTI.
Yep.
Okay. And so there were Tainos. I don't want to get too much into the history, but there were Tainos, which were indigenous people. There were Africans before Columbus started the Middle Passage, bringing Africans to IT. Okay. So so-called Black people were there before that.
Sure.
All right. Let's make that clear.
Sure.
And there are a lot of great people you can follow. Actually, Dominican, I think I've shared with you, Steve, Dominican historians like Dr. Margarita La Rosa, who's a young Dominican woman. She's Dominican American. She's a young PhD. She's super to follow on IG. So follow her if you can. She'd give you all the history. But yeah, so we have a community there, man. A lot of brothers who have left the United States, all different parts, even a lot from where I'm from the DC area, but they're from all over. They started out, obviously, like me, visiting, and they were able to transition to living there permanently. Most of them, including myself, most of them are not residents. They do not have residency.
Oh, wait a minute. That's key, ladies and gentlemen. Now, listen closely to what Clay is saying here, because a lot of you all get stuck and hung up on this visa thing. Explain that piece there, Clay.
Well, you can, obviously you don't need a visa to travel from the United States to the Dominican Republic. You do need a passport. You can stay, technically, you can stay as long as you want, but more and more in recent years, they are enforcing the overstay, what they call the overstay. So most people who go to the Dominican Republic, just people in general, tourists or whatever, visitors, they for a few days or maybe even, a month, and then they come back. Well, anything under 30 days, there's no overstay fee required. All right. If you stay more than 30 days, that's when the overstay fees start to kick in. So after after all this time, I don't have residency. I don't necessarily, it's not required, it's not needed. Are there advantages to it? Sure, I suppose. But I'm a pretty smart guy. I've been able to manage life without it. Some guys do have it. One of the fellows I introduced you to, Steve, he has it. Ronnie Green. So
okay.
But it's not real common, but guys do have it. American brothers do have it. But if you stay longer than the required time, upon exit, when leaving to go wherever you're going, generally back to the United States, at the airport, you just pay your exit, the overstay fee. The overstay, they've gone up. Now it's gone up since the pandemic. It's gone up, but depending on how long you've been there, it might be anywhere from $65 up to $95. That's a next tier, depending on how long you've been there, several months. And then it goes up from there. It could go up to $140, $150 if you've been there for 2 years without returning or exiting, or without returning to the United States, which is the country of your citizenship and origin.
Sure. So Clay, great job of breaking that down. And one of the things I like to share with the brothers is that, guys, there are ways to get out of the United States, to get somewhere for a few months, to collect yourself, let your central nervous system calm down
and reset,
let you catch your breath, let you kind of slow down and be in a place where you're not being targeted. You don't feel hunted.
De-stress.
And people, like, I had a white woman that came into the discussion in one of the YouTube channels, and she was saying that I like to be among people of color, but you've got to admit that the Dominican Republic has its safety issues. And I said, with all due respect, you're a white woman with that perspective. Me as a black man, I felt quite comfortable in the Dominican Republic because I was walking around people that look like me. And we, in my opinion, Clay, are much easier to read than some of the other people on the planet, if you get what I'm saying. We can feel and see when we're upset or when we don't need to be in a certain situation. But I digress. What I want to share with the brothers, though, you can go to Mexico. You can come here as an American citizen. If you fly into Cancun, they will give you 180 days on the spot. That's 6 months. Okay. Clay just mentioned that you can go to the Dominican Republic for months, maybe up to a year, maybe up to 2 years, and pay a small fee. That's a small fee, ladies and gentlemen, for being able to stay in a place and you're not illegal, right? It's not illegal. I mean, it's probably not preferred.
Unless you're Haitian and illegal, they're targeting them.
There you go. Well, there we go.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, and that me no black thing. So that kind of goes along with all that.
That's another episode.
Yes, it is
another episode.
So speaking on the piggyback this, how's your perspective of your racial identity changed? Because for me, I always learn so much when I go to Latin America and these black and brown spaces. The racial identity for me is so intriguing. What's that experience been like for you?
That has been an interesting dynamic because in the early years living there, maybe in the first year or two, I was not as attentive to that because I was coming out of the United States So my reference point was, man, it feels so good to it feels so good not to wear that every day, and the peace of mind that came with that. After, as time went on or has gone on, you become very attuned to and attentive to the idea that, wow, so many black appearing or black looking Dominicans, number one, see themselves, their image of themselves, their self-image and identity is nationality first. But they're not, to me, they're not 100% genuine in that their race is also intertwined with their nationality. So we've all heard them say, I'm not black, I'm Dominican. What they're saying is nationality. Okay. And also black for them connotes to Africanism or African or American, Black American.
Oh,
And
see, this is good. This is good. Keep going, Clay.
And so we have to get out of American blacks. We're very triggerish. We get offended by somebody who doesn't want to be true and be real with who they are and all that. Get out of the even politically, everything political triggers us and we get emotional. And this is what Dr. Claude Anderson talks about. Get away from being so trigger happy with emotions and feelings.
Preach.
Think strategically.
Yep.
Think about, okay, let me try to get where they're at. So here's how they think. They see being black as being on the bottom. We don't. We have a lot of pride as Black Americans. We have a lot of internal or intrinsic pride. We don't see ourselves as being on the bottom unless we have a low self-image and self-esteem. You see that in lower socioeconomic Black Americans who take it out on each other and target each other for slights or violence or attacks, self-hating, and we project it onto each other. But with them, they see it from a class and economic and daily living standpoint. Even if they're living that way down on the social ladder, or economically living in poverty, which a lot of them are. But the last thing they want to either be identified as or associated with is blackness, in the sense of where you stand in the social strata, socioeconomically. So their aspiration, even if it's unrealistic, is European or white, whiteness. Yep. Even though they're when you look at them, they look like you and me, Steve.
Yep.
You were just there.
Yes, I was.
But their mindset has been so it's corrosive. Their mindset from a young age coming up in the country in Dominican Republic is anti-blackness, pervades the culture there. It's in the schools and education. They're very poorly educated unless they went to a private school that was pretty expensive. But even in that, they're not going to get the education that promotes anything anti-colonial or tells the truth about the history of their own country and their own identity. They're not going to get that.
Right.
So
And Clay, to be honest, and to be fair, I'm not sure that all the people that will be watching this video. I want to make this clear, guys. Dominican Republic and Haiti that Clay referred to, that people call Haiti now, it's on the same island of Hispaniola. This is one big, big island.
But it was IT before it was Hispaniola.
Right.
The colonialists, the
Right.
Spaniards from Europe who were white,
Yep.
or European. They certainly weren't from Africa.
Sure.
They co-opted the name of the island to become Hispaniola, but
Mm-hmm.
with an H, Hispaniola. Okay.
Yeah.
The point is, it's just like Africa. Africa is Akebulan.
Mm-hmm.
Akebulan. It's not Africa. It's
Right.
Akebulan.
Sure.
Okay.
No, I feel you.
Africa came from you know who. So the point is that black, being my perception of myself, has been, you really have to understand who you are while living in the Dominican Republic. You have to understand how they see themselves. I'm talking specifically about those appearing as black,
Sure.
but
Sure.
they see themselves as Dominicans, whereas Haitians see themselves as Haitian, certainly nationality wise, but their cultural identity is Haitian, and put in parenthesis next to that with an African mindset and African ties back culturally.
Yes.
They are completely in alignment psychically, spiritually, culturally. They know and embrace their Africanness.
And see that's the point I was getting to, is that in IT, fighting for their freedom, getting their freedom, and then being shackled with these colonial powers for the last 200 years, the people of the Dominican Republic have seen how IT has been treated and has been exploited and has been, just run through by these colonial powers, that they are like, look, I don't want any parts of that treatment. And you couple that with that colonial mindset that's really driven home in them, then you can really understand it. And so when I was on the ground in Santo Domingo, they knew I was American. And like Clay said, as soon as I opened my mouth, but they didn't treat me badly. They didn't treat me harshly. They didn't say, "Oh, me no black." It wasn't anything like that. It was just a natural exchange with two people that look the same, but have different identities. And so that's what I wanted to get across.
100%, Steve. Listen, man. If the DR was so bad, I would not be there, or if it was unwelcoming, or if I felt a sense that it wasn't the place for me, even though I have a daughter there, so obviously I have a tie that keeps me there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're together. I mean, that's my baby.
Oh, if you're on IG, you see her all the time. I think I've seen her grow up. So
yeah. But the Dominican people historically are extremely genial, friendly. They're throwbacks. I call them throwbacks. To a time in America where things were more kind. They were times were kinder. People were kind. Places were kind. Life was less intense, and that's where Dominican, for the most part, is. They have their idiosyncrasies culturally. They don't respect your space, personal space. You can be in a line anywhere, in the grocery store, in the bank, at the airport, even on the plane. They're very pushy on the plane. that's just their nature. Don't
Yep.
don't try to start a fight with any of them. Don't try to buck on them. We come with this tough, Black American toughness and exterior or posturing and all that. Don't bring that energy, man. DR is a great place to visit or live. Most brothers that live there, they fall right in and just live easy. You embrace it. I love it because that's how I am by nature. I'm just a smooth brother, man. Steve knows this. Now I'm not a sucker. You know, I'm a dude from DC. I'm gonna keep it real. I'm gonna keep it real when I need to keep it real.
That's
But you
right.
don't need to do that. You don't need to wear that on your sleeve, and you don't need to do that unnecessarily. Um, uh, DR is just a free flowing, very friendly place. You want to make a lot of relationships. You can live very easily there, not quite as affordably as other places like Medellin, Colombia. Colombia is very affordable. The US dollar goes way further there than in a lot of places. Certainly further, you can stretch the dollar and you can live more comfortably uh, there than in the Dominican Republic. Dominican Republic, particularly Santo Domingo, has gotten more expensive over the years. Uh,
Okay.
Purchasing, I get this question a lot. I want to, Clay, what's up with purchasing real estate? I want to get a place or I want to get an Airbnb there and be able to rent it out. You can do that. That's what a lot of the brothers, Steve, you talked about our community there. By the way, I failed to mention our community. So we have a bunch of brothers that live there that we get together, we hang out. Uh, a lot of them hang out every day in the same place or places.
That's
I'm
cool.
not I'm not out as much with them as I used to be, but we get together. Another instance or example is we get together during the holidays, like you know Thanksgiving. I don't necessarily call it Thanksgiving. I don't observe that and Christmas. The point is we get together for those American times of the year, and we actually have the food. We set out the tables, long 6-foot tables at somebody's place, or we choose a venue and we have our little time, feeling like we're back in the States.
Mm.
So we have that that unity and that feeling that we need to get when we need to get it. But what I was saying was, you you know you can live very comfortably there. If you need to speak English, you can get around your fellas. You're going to need to feel that natural. You're going to have that at times. But if you live in DR, you're going to need to be speaking Spanish.
That's right.
You don't have to know it to come visit or to live there starting off, but through immersion, you will be able to draw on it. It will come out.
That's
We're
right.
we're black people. We know how to adapt naturally. It starts happening. If you've traveled a little bit, you get what I'm saying. It'll
Yep.
come to you. Relax. Don't be intimidated by it. Um, and now even technology helps with that. So, but living there is an easy live. It's an easy life. I would say this: if you're broke or you're low income, don't come there. If you don't have a really solid plan, you don't want to be grinding it out there. Uh,
Right. Right.
you want to be somebody that's coming after an established career, or maybe you're working remotely. And for example, we have a lot of guys that work remotely that are in IT, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Those kinds of roles allow you to not only physically be there but economically, financially live there, because you got it like that, because you have a high salary, where you can do that. A lot of brothers come there after retiring, either from whatever career or especially military, and they have their military retirement slash pension,
Mm.
or firemen. maybe you worked as a fireman, a firefighter, and firefighters and police, former police, they have great pensions. They get
Mhm.
5,000, 5,500, 7,500 a month. You can live off that there. You can do very, very well and fine in Dominican Republic. You're going to need to live comfortably. You're really going to need a good, 2,000 a month to 2,500 a month minimum if you're living there, because your apartment, I assume most guys haven't bought a home, like built a house.
Right.
A couple guys have, but they're these brothers, they're millionaires, frankly,
Sure.
and
Sure.
they built a home, and it's a mansion style home, which is great. You got brothers there like that. But you're going to rent an apartment for, you know, a 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 a month, and in a nice area, really nice, upscale, affluent area like downtown Santo Domingo, Piantini, Naco, those types of places. West Santo Domingo, they call Santo Domingo Oeste, like Bella Vista, and
Hmm.
types of places. And it's going to be like you're living in downtown Miami, or in, somewhere in Chicago or DC. So, because you're going to have all the accompaniments, all the amenities, you can walk to all of it. It's obviously very safe, but it's safe in traditional Dominican neighborhoods. Don't get it twisted. I've lived in them. Okay. They have homes. It's not just the tower apartments. Okay.
Mm.
Not just the high rises. They have traditional working class or middle class neighborhoods in what we call the suburbs, like the close in suburbs of the urban downtown center. They call them the Campo, but the Campo is just suburbs. It's urban, but it's just suburbs, and they're traditional neighborhoods. They have homes, like single family homes. And I've lived in those neighborhoods, in those communities, and I never had an issue. I never had a problem. The closest thing that happened to me was being downtown in Naco or Piantini, and I was on my phone in rush hour, and it's bumper to bumper, and um, they have motorcycles, these motorcycle messengers and food delivery like DoorDash there, and Uber Eats, and moto taxis. So a moto taxi turn thief,
Yep.
because these guys, they drive motor taxi, moto concho, they're moto taxis. But if it's around Christmas time and they need some bread, they're gonna run up on you. And if you're on your phone, you don't have to be American. You can be anybody out on your phone. You can be Dominican on your phone on the street. And if you're out in public and you're on the sidewalk, you might get rode by. They come up on the sidewalk off the street, and before you know it, he snatched my phone. And I was like,
Hmm.
what? Luckily, I was fortunate enough that he dropped it, and he hit the curb and kind of swerved, and he almost crashed out. I ran to get my phone, and I tried to go after him. I was going to steal that mother. I was going to get to him and get to some action.
Right.
But
Right.
he was long gone, man. These dudes are pros.
Yep.
They know how to get it and go.
Yep.
Uh, and so, but that's happened once in 10 plus years. Other
Mm.
than that, I've never had to throw hands. I had some incidents with a couple Uber drivers. They want to get froggy with it, whatever. But it's never been a situation where I felt my security was in danger or at risk. And I've been all over the island. There are beautiful places to go. There's more than Sosua. There's more than Puerto Plata. There's
Hmm.
more than Punta Cana. There's more than Santo Domingo. You got to get out. There's so many places and adventures in the Dominican Republic. I've been in the jungle. I've been up in Bonao in the mountains, where it looks like you see nothing but jungle and trees.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my boys who's Dominican American, he lives there. He has a second home. Santo Domingo is his primary home. His second home for he and his family is a very nice villa home up in the mountains of Bonao, and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful up there. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
internet is spotty, but you don't go up there to be on the internet.
That's right. That's right.
You go up there as a getaway, and you're out in nature. It's beautiful. We go up there for the weekend. We smoke cigars. We get in the pool and the jacuzzi. Yeah, you got pool and jacuzzi up there. I mean, you won't believe the lifestyle you can have in the Dominican Republic, man. And not for a whole lot of money. You can live
Okay.
there. I get massage, a real massage, like a professional massage. You can get that other massage, but you can also get professionalism.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps me in my mindset, in my psyche.
Oh, sure.
I get jacuzzi almost every day. I get these kinds of men's pampering, 3 to 4 times a week, and you need that. So we not only need it psychically and spiritually, but we need it for physiological care and taking care of ourselves. It brings your blood pressure and your tension and stress and heart rate down. It raises your affirmation as a Black man.
Mm-hmm.
We're African originated, so
Yes.
we have a different makeup, and we need affirmation. We need to be positively affirmed.
I agree.
It ain't just getting our what off. That's the thing that brothers, they focus so much, almost inordinately, on the physical and that's a part of us, but we also need affirmation. We need to be positively affirmed. Sometimes getting those treatments that I described are enough for me. That's affirming.
Sure.
And
I
so
understand.
there's so many ways to get lifestyle when you're living abroad. I chose Dominican Republic, and I've been a lot of places. I worked in the NBA, so my part of my role was scouting throughout the Caribbean and Latin America. So I've traveled over 100,000 miles, brothers. I've been everywhere. I've been to Colombia. I've been to multiple places in Colombia. I've been all over Brazil.
Sure.
I've been everywhere in Brazil. I was on assignment working in the NBA during New Year's for 5 days in Rio, and I stayed. My hotel was on Copacabana Beach.
Ooh.
So when I tell you I've seen a lot, I haven't seen it all. I don't know it all, but I could write a book, my brothers. I could write several books. And when I tell you, getting out of the United States and getting to explore and be adventurous and embrace other lifestyles, other ways of life, ways of living, not only how others move, but putting yourself in those places and seeing how you might move in those places.
I love that.
I would strongly, I endorse it. I encourage it. I think what Steve is doing is outstanding. If you aren't following him regularly, do so. If you haven't purchased and dove into his guide, get his guide. It is an excellent instruction. So I'm just telling you, the best decision I ever made was years ago, was to start traveling. And then the second best decision, obviously, was to remove myself from that which wasn't in alignment with my beliefs, with who I am by nature. My mental and my psyche was toxified, and I had to detox. I detoxed by leaving and removing myself from that environment and that climate, and I helped my health by moving to the Dominican Republic and living there.
Wow, you know what? That's profound what you just broke down there. As we wrap up, Clay, I want to give you an opportunity to tell people what you're doing now, and if they are interested, where they can connect with you.
Yeah. So, I'm not going to give out my phone number or email,
Sure, sure.
but you can easily find me on Facebook and on Clay Dade. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, not as much, and I'm on X, formerly Twitter, but probably Instagram. Just put in Clay Dade. My handle is bold, BOLD, boldacious Clay. And hit me up if you ever need premium cigars. I've been sourcing. I'm a big cigar guy. I love cigars. I've been sourcing. I just kind of fell into this. I'll tell you how that happened. But I helped fellas for the last 10 years, 9 years. I help fellas source cigars, all kinds of cigars, even cigars that are made in the Dominican Republic, which is the number one country for cigar production in the world and the number one exporter. I help them. There are cigars made in the Dominican Republic that aren't even in the U.S. market that are fantastic. So I introduce those cigars to fellas if they want to try them. I just ship them. When I come to the U.S., I may bring them with me. But yeah, I can ship from the Dominican Republic very easily. I've been doing it for years, and brothers love it. They appreciate it. They are repeat. They do repeat orders. I can get any cigar in the world, not just Dominican cigars. So, but I also do a lot of this when brothers come to the DR. We go out and we go to cigar lounges, and I show them spots where, you know, Dominicans enjoy cigars. I've gone to the factories, so I may take brothers to the factories. So you're actually going to the cigar farms to see firsthand in person the cultivation of tobacco and the making of cigars up close, the growing of the leaf on the farms for the biggest makers and the biggest brands in cigar.
Mhm.
So we do that. We take trips. We get out and do that. And so yeah. But I also I'm aligned with a partner in Washington. He worked in the U.S. Department of Commerce. He's a specialist and an expert in international commerce. So we help. I'm his country manager for the Dominican Republic. So we promote U.S. based businesses that are looking to enter markets all over the globe, all over the world. So I help U.S. companies who are looking to expand globally, particularly help them gain entry into the Dominican market. So, with my relationships in the Dominican government and in chambers of commerce here in the Dominican Republic, or businesses that are suppliers and distributors, they're looking to import U.S. products in different categories, whether it be agriculture, food, electronics, furniture, um, uh, IT, information services, and AI, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, uh, services and products, goods and services. I assist U.S. companies, particularly Black-owned companies, okay, with expanding and growing their business globally. So that means shipping containers full of products,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
and I'm paid for that. So you're talking about large volume orders. We have Black-owned companies all over the country, whether they make, home goods like shampoo and conditioners, Black women companies, Black women led companies. They make hair care products. Well, I help get those products into the DR market. Hair care is a big thing in DR.
Sure.
These,
Sure.
these Dominican females, all they care about is their hair. and and beauty and all of that. But that's a huge market, and it's a consumer good, and they pay for it. And so you want to keep those goods flowing, and why not open, our U.S. companies, particularly minority-led companies, I don't use that word a lot, but to new markets. And so that's what we do. I'm the country manager for the Dominican Republic and the Caribbean. So whether it be Jamaica, Bermuda, the Bahamas, Dominican Republic, I'm the guy that U.S. companies go to find an importer, distributor, wholesaler partner that will import those goods and services into their country, and they take it from there and sell it into the market.
Okay. Or Clay, lastly, just give them your IG handle again so people can reach out to you if they want to contact you.
Yeah, Clay Dade, ClayDade, and the actual IG handle or account might be under at BOLDACIOUS Clay, Boldacious Clay.
Okay. Well, Clay Dade, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate you. Not only your time, but you shared your wisdom. And I think you gave a lot of jewels that the gentleman will really take advantage of, I hope, because guys, Clay's a professional now. Like he's a professional in every sense of his life. And you could hear it during this conversation. So I hope that you take the information that he shared with us today, you utilize it for your benefit, and you get further into the next chapter forward community, because this is what we're doing. We're helping brothers around the world seek out greener pastures for whatever your next chapter needs to look like. Okay. Thank you to Clay Dade. Thank you all for paying attention and giving us your time today on this wonderful interview. And make sure you tune in and check back for more great interviews like this. All right, fellas, until next time, holla, y'all.